On behalf of AmWest Entertainment, I'm Joe Christopher, joined again by the incomparable one, Pat Cummings, as we take a look at week 2 of the Dubai World Cup Carnival. And Pat is very well rested this week, and he has every right to be. I'd sleep well too if I picked $40 worth of winners in week 1 of the Carnival, but unfortunately, Pat, that didn't translate very well in our bankroll challenge, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show.
Thank you, Joe.
Sorry.
Yes,
The
it
good comes with
was.
the bad sometimes in this world, so.
It does. Look, sometimes you just don't play it right always, but Safety Check turned out a good winner for us on opening night. Almost $20 in the last race. A great ride from apprentice Cam Hardy. Surfer didn't have a real strong opinion in the Mocktoon Challenge and kind of ended up on the favorite Surfer, and man, he did okay there. So yeah, it was a good night.
Then Hatoto at $12. Henry Clay ran his eyeballs out, close second for him. So you were live all over the place all day. Tom Arcuz almost got it done, Pat, but instead of being a whack job this last week, he hung a little bit in this stretch. Wound up finishing second at 1480, and True Story was a good winner. And we've been tweeting too during the course of the Dubai World Cup Carnival races, and late in the day I had a couple of good ones. Frankie Four Fingers in race 6, 1480 in the play spot, and in the finale I had all 4 horses tweeted based on the post parade, and it returned a $7,000 superfecta. So you handicap the races in advance, use the parade ring and the post parade to your advantage as well. Also use DubaiRaceNight.com to your advantage. Lots of great information there, including all of our selections, Pat. AmWestEntertainment.com as Pat's Dubai Racing Comprehensive, as well as that also being available on Dubai Race Night, Carnival Past Performances, track of stats, Pat's detailed analysis, and always free live video, which is great to utilize on race day. And Pat, with AmWestEntertainment.com comes Amwager.com, and I know you're a big fan.
Huge fan, and was able to get down last week and have some money on Safety Check at
There
the
you
end
go.
of the day, but I did have to reload there in the middle of the day. It's fast, it's easy, and it's always great to get those player rewards after the day, even if it was a winning day, to get a little bit more on top of it, some of your money back. It's a great platform, and I really do love what those guys are doing.
Well, speaking of Safety Check, and I was surprised he went off at 8-1. He was a very impressive winner. Let's take a brief look back, Pat, at week 1 of the Carnival. True Story, Safety Check, Surfer, all impressive winners.
Yeah, True Story I thought was really good. First off of the ultimate equipment change, the gelding operation, and man, he really rallied and just ran on very well. And I was especially impressed with how he galloped out after the race. I thought it was very impressive, Joe. I think there is plenty more to come from True Story. We've seen Godolphin horses run in this race in the past. Sharistan comes to mind, a name from a couple of years ago, who just wasn't able to kind of kick on. Is a little bit lesser company early in the Carnival and those types of races. So we'll see what happens there. I didn't think Mushrek disgraced himself all that much by running second. It was a good run. Pelote ran very well to come from the back and grab third. I thought that was good. Look, Safety Check was phenomenal in the last race. There's no argument there. Brilliant ride, tucked in, accelerated away from the field, very fast time. I was a big fan of what Safety Check did in that spot. And then Surfer, in the Mocktoon Challenge, I'm not willing to get behind him off of this effort, though, Joe. I thought he had everything go his way, 100%. Not willing to back him. Frankie Four Fingers ran very well. There were quite a few others that ran well there, too. It was maybe a deceptively easy effort. Well, it was an easy effort, but I don't think it was as deceptively easy as it may have appeared.
Right. I agree with you on all 3 points. I think the Safety Check race, the horses that ran well that day are going to come back and run well again, because I think that's a very key race moving forward. And Safety Check, I think, is better than ever at this point of his career. Thursday, January 15th will be week 2 of the Carnival. Pat's 7 thoroughbred races, including the 6-race feature, the $150,000 Dubai Stakes, 1,200 meters on dirt. More on that in just a little bit. But let's jump into the action with race number 2. This race is going to be about 10 furlongs on the dirt. We've got Stormbelt as the 5-2 morning line favorite, but there are a couple of others in here with a chance, including the New York bred Beyond Empire, who maybe a change of scenery will help.
It might, Joe. He has been in state bred company in New York mostly, and now ends up with David Simcock, I know, who asked me about him before he came into his yard. He had been with Kira McLaughlin here in the States. I think there are valid question marks around this horse. Sure, a change of scenery might help him, but he's just barely been able to get past State Bread Company, plugging along in New York, and now he's headed over to Dubai. No Lasix, um, just out of his scenery and into handicap company. He's not all that bad off in the handicap. He's going to come in 56.5, but I just don't want this horse in this spot. He's not for me here.
Okay, well, let's move on to the horses that you do like, and I know you want to spotlight Stormbelt here. This is a horse who fits like a glove and is your morning line favorite.
Yeah, he's 5-2 on the morning line, and he certainly seems the most likely winner of the race. Last time out, he defeated Cooptado, or rather, he ran second behind Cooptado in the Entisar, but we're going to go to his effort 2 back against Henry Clay. And if that name sounds familiar, those that were watching last week and paying attention to the Carnival will remember Henry Clay, who was on the lead in this race and on the rail. Henry Clay runs a very good second here, but Stormbelt covers all the extra ground, and he just absolutely dominates this performance. He's bred for this by More Than Ready out of Mary's Thunder. No argument from me that Stormbelt really likes this surface. He came back and backed it up well against a horse who's going to go into stakes company coming up after this. Cooptado will, rated 113. Stormbelt is the top weight here. He's drawn in gate 4. I think he'll secure a nice position. I really like Stormbelt in this spot.
And that leads us to that track stat of the day where you mentioned how much more ground he covered, and Henry Clay came back and ran a huge race in week 1 of the Carnival. So other horses to look at in here, Pat. Love Bernadine comes back off of just a week's rest, a pretty good third in his first appearance. Famous Kid by Street Cry. But I think we've kind of narrowed it down to the main contenders in this field. Anybody else strike your fancy as a possible long shot?
I just want to back up what you said there, Joe, because Le Bernardin had a very wide run last week. He's backing up on that here pretty quickly. He covered a lot more extra ground relative to I'm Back, who won that race last week, and he covered about, I think it was 26 meters more than Henry Clay did when he was on the rail. Now, that certainly under normal circumstances would have its own right to be the track stat of the day, so to speak. But Stormbelt covered 15 meters more than Henry Clay. That to me was meaningful because he won well, he won going away, and then he comes back and he backs it up with another good effort. My problem with Le Bernardin here, despite a wide run, he went into the notebook after last week. My problem is he's just backing up off of a really big race 1 week later, and I'm just not 100% sure that he will be in top condition for this, so that's why I sided with Stormbelt. I do think it's worth mentioning numbers 8, Famous Kid, and number 9, Zane Eagle. Famous Kid has great family, great pedigree by Street Cry out of Moyesi, who dropped both St. Ledger winner in Mastery and another former Carnival runner, Kirk Lees, back in 2009, who did at least run half decent on the dirt. Zane Eagle out of Pearl City, she's a grade 1 winner on the dirt, Joe. She won the Ballerina at Saratoga a couple of years back, has sprint side on the dam side, long distance, mostly grass on the sire side of Dylan Thomas. I thought Zane Eagle wasn't a crazy long shot, so I went 189 in this particular spot.
All right, let's move on to the 4th race, which I found to be absolutely fascinating. So many different angles, horses coming from different places, horses that look like they have a bright future. UAE 2000 Guineas Trial. This race will be raced over 7 furlongs on dirt. 5-2 morning line favorite is Mouth Tool, who has a class edge on most of these, but there are several horses in here that appear to have upside, Mr. Cummings.
Yeah, let's start with the one horse that kind of stands out because of what he's done most recently. That's number 6, Mubtahij. He's the only horse in the field that has experience over the track. He ran here in a maiden race for basically older horses. He was still technically 2 at the time. It was on New Year's Eve, and he ran against a field of maidens who lifetime was about over 100. Had a little bit of trouble, I'm serious, had a little bit of trouble at the start, rushed up, secured a nice position. He took the kickback, tipped out. It took him a while to really get going here, but he does, and he gets past a horse, Year of Glory, who will likely be a heavy favorite in a local maiden race on Saturday. My problem with Mubtahij is that the way in which he won this race over the mile doesn't suggest to me that he's going to be all that snap-on for the 1,400 meters of this. He looked like he needed more ground to me, Joe, and he's not getting it here. So that to me is a bit of a concern with number 6 Mubtahij, and he's the second choice here in the race for the owner as Christoph Sumian decides to ride the Argentine import number 1 Ajwad.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can go in here. You made Ajwa 9-2. A horse on the outside, Volatile 6-1. The Swedish bred. How good is this horse? Won in first asking, a good third last time out at Newmarket. I mean, this is a horse that I think has potentially a bright future and seems to be a horse that will be forwardly placed.
In this race, Joe, we have a horse like number, I think it's number 9 here, Unorthodox, who was a big winner on debut. Actually, he was a winner in Ireland. We have some number 12, Wild Citizen. He was a winner in Scandinavia, first up. But it was nowhere near as impressive as Volatile was. Let's go to the video that we found on YouTube of Volatile's career debut. He wins this by 16 lengths on the dirt in Sweden. Under a hand ride. It's never so much how fast you go, it's how you go fast. And he was going fast. I don't know if he was going that fast, but look, it was 58 and change, but he did it in an absolute canter, hacked up here. The biggest thing about this performance to me, Joe, is that he was then sent down to Newmarket, ran there in the Group 3 on turf, drawn on the stand side rail. It was good to it was soft going, really. He ran very well in that spot to me. I think it completely validated his run in Sweden and said this is a legitimate horse. He still showed speed regardless of the surface. I'm not that strong on Math Tool. He's got great dirt pedigree, but I wasn't blown away with the races I saw from him. And the other horse that I think deserves legitimate consideration is Ajwad. His dam Asian Influence is a half to the dam of Asiatic Boy, who was a UAE Triple Crown winner, and both Asiatic Boy and Ajwad are out of the same sire, not for sale. It's legitimate dirt pedigree there. There's no argument. But to me, the horse that really is kind of the wild card here is Volatile. And if he runs a big race here, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him privately purchased out of this race. It is possible. I went with Volatile, and I actually made him the Amwager value play of the day, 6-1 on the morning line. I don't know what we're really going to get here, Joe. You have a couple Godolphin horses. You have a Mike DeCock South American import. They've been very successful in the past. Maybe Volatile gets forgotten. In this big of a field, I think you get value on Volatile.
Now, we all know Hardspun was a really good turf horse. Mr. Greeley has been more of a turf-influenced sire, and that pedigree, even Hardspuns, have been good on turf. So Moftool has never run on the dirt before. We can assume that it'll run well because of the pedigree, but you still have to prove it, and it's tough to take that horse as the favorite. I like Volatile too. We'll get to our selections in full a little bit later on. But Pat, let's move on to race number 5. We've got a couple of intriguing horses from MDK in here, and Star Empire and El Estrondoso. But on the far outside, Half a Guinea is your 3-1 morning line favorite, and a horse that you've actually made your best bet.
Yeah, I really like Half a Guinea in this spot, Joe. He ran on this day last year when he was a good placing behind Catamountain. That was on the all-weather when Catamountain eventually ended up running third on Dubai World Cup night. But he quickly backed up, did Half a Guinea, came back the following week, ran second behind. Actually, I don't think it was the following week. It was shortly thereafter. Ran second behind Saxo Jack over this course and distance. And my problem with it was, Joe, that Saxo Jack just kind of stayed in one place the whole race. Half a Guinea was a little bit unsettled, was forced to move up outside of horses down the backstretch and really kind of expend some much-needed energy. He was the first to really get after the leader. He still stayed on very well. Now he's drawn on gate 1. I think it's a less competitive group than what he faced in this spot last year. I'm a little concerned that he only raced once in the European season. He did that under the Godolphin blue colors. He's back here, drawn on the inside. I think it could help settle him, and there's a lot of speed in this race, which I also think will help settle him back mid-pack. Ocean Tempest, Tenor, Without Fear, Sanaki and Star, 4 horses that all like to go forward. And to me, Half a Guinea really sits a very nice trip here. If he comes back and runs what he did when he was second here last season, I think he's a really good thing in here. 3-1 morning line because there are still some question marks there, but I made him the Amwager best bet of the day.
Yeah, you've got Star Empire with Wayne Smith, and you've got El Estrondoso coming back off a week's rest back on turf with Christoph Sumian. That horse intrigues me here. Alaval, we always root for David Marnane's horses. This horse has run some big races, but just 1 for 16 on grass, but a touch of class could sneak his way into the gimmicks. Race 6 is the feature, Pat. This is the Dubawi Stakes, and it is $150,000 US. Distance of this one is 6 furlongs or 1,200 meters, whichever you prefer. And we've got some classy old veterans in this race. Of course, Ronaldo the Wizard, one of our favorites, 9 years old, making his seasonal debut. Conveyance is in here, United Color. Horse is very familiar to people who have followed the Carnival in the past. But 5-2 on the 8-horse Muarab, who is going to be your slight favorite in a tough race.
He's won 4 in a row over the last 2 seasons, Joe, and we were hoping we'd see him at the Carnival last year, but he never got out from his third start, which came up the hill at Jebel Ali. He came back just about 10, 14 days ago, made his first start since then, so basically off a year, and has won 4 consecutive at Jebel Ali. That's coming up the hill on the dirt just west of Meydan. It's a different dirt surface here. He still has a lot to prove. There's no argument about that. But I think Muarab's in with a big chance. Ronaldo the Wizard, Golden Shaheen winner, he's making his first start of the season, and it's his first start on dirt in quite some time as well. He really liked it to Pita. He needed this race last year. He might need it again. There's no doubting that.
He needed it last year, but he got in a ton of trouble, if I remember.
He did.
In his comeback race, and then he ran much better after that. So
he came
really
back
cool
with
horse.
He was second in the Mahabal Shamal on Super Saturday. And United Color won this race last year.
Mm-hmm.
He had been second in his comeback, was United Color, when he came back and he won. But I'm a little troubled by the fact that he was 5th beaten 10 in his comeback race a few weeks ago when he finished well behind Muarab and some much lower rated horses. There is an interesting new face to this group, and that is number 9, Muanid. And let's go back and take a look at his dirt debut at Meydan just a few weeks ago. On the rail, on the lead, and see you later. Muanid just absolutely tore up the dirt track for Doug Watson. He was handy in the early going. He had the rail. He went on with it. There is plenty of pace in this race. Horses we haven't talked about, Touch Gold, Al Margo, Caspian Prince, and Conveyance all want to mix it up in the early going, and I think Muanid does too. The thing about Muanid is he is drawn in gate number 9. That could help settle him down. I don't know if he's going to vie for that lead. I think it's going to be a quick pace, Joe. And Muanid is an interesting contender here. At the end of the day, it's not easy to pick in this race. There's a lot of different angles, unproven horses, some older guys that are just getting started off, and a horse like United Color where you're not sure which direction he's going in. I kind of dunced out here with the chalk. I went with number 8, Muarab. And we'll see what happens. But it's not a strong or confident play.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough task and an acid test for that horse as he's going to step it up and face some solid competition in this one in the stake and the feature. Pat, it's time to give our selections. How did Mackenzie do last week?
Yeah, she did well with a win, and same as you, Joe. Rocked home with True Story. No argument there. And she liked Tamar Kuz too, so good for her. Her picks up at DubaiRaceNight.com, and your picks are there, and mine as well. So there's going to be plenty of action to come.
The Bankroll Challenge is up next, Pat, but first let's give us your selections right here, right now for Dubai World Cup Carnival Night 2.
In the first race, which is the 1,000 guineas trial, maybe quite a bit less competitive, it would seem, from the male version. I went with number 2, Local Time. It's going to wear that red Kappa Godolphin, kind of the third string as some would perceive it, but I think this filly is an up-and-comer. She looked really good on the all-weather. I liked her most of all, although Comedy Queen I thought was very intriguing, as is the South African import Odd Edom. In the third race, Knavery. For me, Simon Crisford with his UAE training debut. That's a very interesting one, and he's training for Qatar Racing. This is one of those non-carnival races that gets thrown in the mix. I went with Knavery there. And in the last race, Royal Ridge gets the nod for me in a very wide-open affair. I thought you had to go value hunting, and I'll do it with Royal Ridge getting back on grass. He has some back class.
All right, well, we agree in a couple of these races 3 and 4. Pat, I hope you're right with your value play on Volatile. Add a DM for me in the opener. I think this horse has some promise. Beyond Empire, who knows? New York bred in Dubai. I have to see what happens. I think he does fit that spot well. I don't think it's a very strong race. Ellen Strondoso back on turf for me. Conveyance, I think he'll show speed throughout in race number 6, and it's nice to be forward on this dirt track. Some Dog Millionaire hasn't raced since 2013. Don't really know what he's going to do. We'll take a look at him in the parade ring and in the post parade to see if he's strutting his stuff before backing him. It'll be interesting to see what kind of price he is. Okay, Pat, 2015 AmWest Bankroll Challenge. You were a monster with your selections last week, but unfortunately Bannock didn't run that well. You kind of centered your plays around him. Big Goose Egg, despite the huge performance on the win end for you. I got 60-50 when True Story won. Tough call in the exacta. The next 3 horses that I picked ran second, third, and fourth. Unfortunately, I got the chalky exacta, but still only lost about $40 for the week. Hope to improve on that in week 2, Pat.
Yeah, well, Joe, it's all about how you play. It's not necessarily who you've picked on top. It's how you put your money behind those selections. So we messed it up last week, or at least I did, and you just got some of it back. Look, we're rolling here, and I just really like Half a Guinea in that 5th race a whole heck of a lot. And so I'm kind of banking around Half a Guinea here. So I'm going to come out with a pick 3 that starts in race 4. It's a $1 play. Going to use 5 horses in the 4th race: Ajwad, Maftool, Mubtahij, Padlock, and Volatile, singling Half a Guinea, and then go 5 deep in the Dubawi. Using basically the logical horses that we talked about. Russian Soul, the one that we didn't talk about that we're going to throw in there. United Color, Ronaldo, Muarab, and Muanid. Then taking $48 to win on Half a Guinea, and then we'll put them on top in the trifectas on a $27 play for a 50-cent base. 9 over the 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 with all. So it's all Half a Guinea for me, one way or the other.
And ticket construction, when you've got a strong opinion on a horse and you've got races surrounding it where you think it's a little bit more wide open, single, go for it. That's exactly what Pat's doing. Pat, you proud of me? I put $60 of my bankroll into a pick 3 this week.
I am. It's nice to see you kind of getting a little more exotic, Joe.
Yeah, there you go. Well, race number 4 I thought was wide open. I used 5 horses in there, 4 horses in the 5th, and 3 horses in race number 6, thus the $60 ticket. I do like Volatile at a price in race number 4, so I'm also going to play that horse to win in place. And then obviously some value to be had maybe on LS Strondoso. Bad race last week on dirt, back on turf. Form is darkened. We'll go 5 to win, 15 to place on him in race number 5. Pat, you can follow us on Twitter. Dubai Race Night. Track is racing for you. Joey Decay Racing for me will be tweeting during the course of the Thursday morning races. Any final thoughts before we move forward and set sail towards week number 2 of the Dubai World Cup Carnival?
I'll be on site and supporting Laura King and Stephen Molyneux on the Dubai Racing Channel broadcast. So my tweeting, some of it won't be as hot and heavy as it had been last week, but I'll be there on site, and we'll see everybody from Dubai next week.
All right, for Pat Cummings, I'm Joe Christofek. Enjoy week 2 of the Dubai World Cup Carnival. Once again, these preview videos sponsored by AmWestEntertainment.com.